name is Ann. I'm from United for Justice with Peace, and we're here today protesting Obama's speech and his plan for military action in Iraq and Syria. Paul is here from American Friends Service Committee, and he's going to speak first.
My name is Paul. I'm with the American Friends Service Committee. And so here we go again. Our leaders have learned nothing from the disastrous war in Iraq, a brutal war which destroyed the country of Iraq, causing over 500,000 deaths, created a sectarian, vicious government in Baghdad, and set off a sectarian war, opening the gates of hell. Through those gates, still a new extremist group called ISIS has emerged. Over the past 13 years, our country has spent $1,516 billion on wars in the Middle East and South Asia. These military actions have drained our country of resources needed to create jobs and create simply a well-functioning society. And yet, after all this bloodshed, and after all this treasure wasted, we are now told that the dangers in the Middle East are even greater than before we started at these wars. If war is part of the solution in Iraq and the Middle East, then why did not $800 billion a year, the entire United States Navy and Air Force in the region, 100,000 ground troops, count them, that's 200,000 boots on the ground, in which we got to kill 200,000 bad guys, and in which we lost 4,100 good guys. If war were part of the solution in the region, why did our all-out shock and awe war, which sent Iraq back to the Stone Age, why did it not work? A sane and moral person might see by now that war is not the best solution to the tragic and complex developments that are now unfolding in the region. But our leaders have neither common sense nor the morality that they espouse with their various religious beliefs.
They're traitors!
War seems to be the only thing they know how to do well. In response to the U.S. bombing them, this vicious group called ISIS has beheaded 2 American journalists. Now these brutal acts are being used by our government and Congress to whip up sentiment for war.
That's right.
Last month alone, our primary ally in the area, Saudi Arabia, beheaded 19 people Right. Without a peep from us. Right. In his sweep through Syria and Iraq, ISIS is using modern American weapons that we sent into the region in previous military actions, promising that those weapons would bring stability to the area. Instead, they are being used by ISIS to conquer large swaths of Syria and Iraq. ISIS success has also been possible because of the brutal policies of a terrorist government that we created in Baghdad, which has been repressing its own people. That's right. A government which we armed to the teeth, and yet when they saw ISIS coming, could not run away fast enough as they handed over our weapons to them. Right. A war on ISIS coordinated by the United States will cost billions more dollars. It will weaken programs, desperately weaken programs that we need in our country. Such a war may or may not stop ISIS, but what will happen is that new horrors will emerge once again in response to still another war carried out by the Crusaders. The United States does not have the answers to the turmoil in the Middle East. A turmoil which we helped create, starting with our military support for Saddam Hussein and for Osama bin Laden in the 1980s. Why did we do that? Of course, to kill the bad guys. That really worked out well. But perhaps, if we come to our senses, we can play a role in promoting some type of peaceful solution over time and supporting humanitarian aid to war victims through international institutions. Today we stand here to oppose the President's new long-term war in Iraq and Syria, involving air combat, over 1,500 ground troops, and weapons and training to some very shady characters indeed. It's time to change course. And that change begins with the policy, no war in Iraq and Syria. We promote this policy not because we are not horrified by the suffering now occurring in the area, but because we are. And because we know that any real solution must come from the peoples of that area, who must find that region, that solution for themselves. It will not come from a new U.S. attack in Iraq and Syria. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm here on behalf of Chelsea Uniting Against the War, Chelsea Uniéndose en contra la guerra, and I'd like to commend every one of you that has come out today and protest to the declaration of yet another war in the Middle East. Make no mistake, Obama's comments on Wednesday night are just like George Bush's comments oh so many years ago when he's declared war on the world and said you're either with us or against us and we're fighting against terrorism. Let's talk about terrorism. Who is the biggest terrorist in the world today? Who has bombed and killed the most civilians in the world today? Who is the responsible in the world today. The U.S. imperialist government. Yes, it has its allies that have helped in this destruction. But these other terrorists are small terrorists compared to the major terrorists that is leading in these attacks. It was exposed by Snowden in one of his revelations that ISIS was brought to birth with the help of British and U.S. intelligence who worked with Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service. The Israeli intelligence service, the U.S. intelligence service, the reactionary Arab regimes, all together with U.S. imperialism. And why are they there? The U.S. imperialism is a political economic system. They want the oil, they want the gas, they want to control the resources of that region. And they're not going to stop until the people rise up and make them stop. And that means here, and that means in the Middle East. Meanwhile, what's going on in Ferguson? The government's waging war on the people in the United States. That's right. They're cutting our Social Security, they're cutting Medicare, they're cutting all our social services, they're privatizing our services. They're at war against us, and they're at war against the people in the Middle East. And we need to unite our forces together against this government until we have a government of the people and by the people that will be able to oppose these wars. One of the key things that we've done through the years, and we'll be there Monday morning at Chelsea High School, is oppose recruitment of high school students. If anyone would like to join us or like to see our literature and do it in your own local high school, I think this is a key part of building the opposition to these wars. We're a small group here today. We need to build from this, and we need to take this very seriously and expose this ISIS as just one more lie, just like the weapons of mass destruction and Al-Qaeda. Yeah, the U.S. was fighting Al-Qaeda, the U.S. was fighting Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden has been dead for years, but the wars go on. So let's go back to our communities and families and talk serious with them about getting involved and standing up and opposing opposing U.S. imperialism in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
By the United States to arm the Iraqi army at a cost of billions of dollars. ISIS took those arms away. Furthermore, ISIS is also armed by U.S. weapons indirectly sent through the Gulf states of Saudi and Qatar, and through Turkey that have been aiding the Syrian rebels all these 3 years. More weapons in the Middle East is not the solution, and it amounts to pouring fuel on a fire. So for all these reasons, we must say no to another U.S. war in the Middle East, no to bombing in Iraq, no to bombing in Syria, no to U.S. arms shipments to the Middle East, no to U.S. organizing of terror groups to overthrow the Syrian government. Bring the troops home, stop the war.
I differ from my beloved peace community in one way. This is not a new war. This is the same war. We've been here many times before, spanning decades, protesting this war.